Mom is home, and of course, I'm talking about Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic. Her banner is currently running, and it's time to take a look at where you can use her, how to build her, and most importantly, if she's Pog or not. Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic, MOM for short, is a sniper rifle wielding wind code supporter. Her kit includes a hybrid of support and damage dealing capabilities, with an emphasis on increasing her allies' max HP. And her burst skill allows her to do a high damage, single piercing shot. She has a bit of ramp up time before her kit is at its maximum potential, but it doesn't take too long to actually get there. So let's take a look at the build. We'll start with her skills. I think that 777 is a good place to start and stop. Skill 1 gives a measly attack damage buff for 5 seconds that caps at 10%, but the more valuable part of the skill is the stacking max HP. But from 7 to 10, it's only going to increase by about 4.8%, and remember that this is a percentage of Maxwell's max HP, and not just a straight up max HP buff to all allies. Her skill 2 is where most of the value in her kit is packed, with an attack buff to all allies when she bursts that scales off of her final max HP, a continuous attack buff to herself after bursting at least once, and an increase in burst gauge generation whenever she lands a fully charged shot. If you're going to take any of these skills to 10, then I highly recommend it be this one. Her burst skill from 7 to 10 is going to increase the damage of her buster shot from 875% of her final attack to 1050% of her final attack. The attack damage that she provides will also increase by less than 5%. So what about overload gear? I'd say that Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic is a very low priority for optimizing overload lines, but 4 elemental damage would be a worthwhile investment in my opinion. However, I wouldn't go any farther than that, but since a lot of Maxwell's kit revolves around doing damage, then any attack and crit lines that you can pick up are a nice bonus as well. When it comes to the cube choice, my first recommendation would be Resilience, and then if you have a particularly high level Vigor cube, you could also consider using that instead. And then I would say Bastion or Destruction cube. For the collection item, I think that Maxwell is worth at least an SR5 doll. Technically, she is a good candidate for an SR15 doll, with her scaling off of HP and attack, but that's potentially a lot of kits for a very small return. Her damage isn't going to be insignificant, but it's not going to match the 2 other DPS you run with her. And you can think of her max HP scaling attack buff as the equivalent of roughly a 35% caster's attack buff. So before we get to the team recommendations, let's talk about where you might expect to use Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic. I can confidently say this will not be a campaign character. Max HP is not very valuable when you're facing enemies that will one-shot you anyways without a shield. And any character that takes time to ramp up is immediately at a disadvantage for campaign. Also, there aren't really any meta DPS units right now for campaign that scale off of max HP. Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic is a good choice for the Bacillus Tower, especially if you have Laplace Ultimate Hero. But we'll talk more about that when I get to the team section. For bossing, she will be a niche pick that fits into the very limited selection of teams that actually scale off of max HP, and she'll also fit into any team compositions that want to stack piercing damage so that her burst can hit really hard in addition to all the offensive buffs she's going to be providing. Now let's get to the exciting part, team compositions. We'll start with the Bacillus Tower. We can use Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic with Treasure Flora, Laplace Ultimate Hero, Leader, and another Burst 3. Maxwell will give the whole team bonus HP, which will increase Laplace's damage here, and she'll alternate bursts with Treasure Flora. Maxwell will also be able to make use of Leader's extremely short attack buff to increase the damage of her own burst. Team 2 is a weaker team that uses Treasure Senti instead of Treasure Flora to provide shields and an attack buff. You could also use Naga here instead of Treasure Senti, but since this team won't be providing shields, it's just strictly weaker. And unfortunately, you can't use Tia and Maxwell and Naga. So it's an either or kind of situation. Now let's take a look at some bossing team compositions. Here we're using Rouge and Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic to buff the HP of Laplace Ultimate Hero and Cinderella, which will increase their own attack. Treasure Flora is alternating bursts with Maxwell here, and an interesting perk of using Flora here is that her 2-second max HP buff will increase the attack that Maxwell provides when bursting, and the damage of Cinderella's burst skill. Also, the offensive buffs that Flora provides to adjacent allies is by no means wasted on Maxwell here. I really like this composition because it really feels like everyone's kit is achieving maximum synergy. This next composition is a Treasure's Way team with Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic and Laplace Ultimate Hero, featuring Rouge. Laplace is a really good choice here since we'll be stacking max HP to give her extra attack, and she'll be able to benefit from the pierce damage bonuses that Zwei provides, assuming Laplace has enough max ammo lines to maintain Mjolnir at least through the duration of full burst. You can use another Pierce 3 burst here like Snow White or the Heavy Arms ult. You'll want to hold Maxwell's piercing shot until Zwei has managed to fully stack her crit buff. So those are a few examples of teams you can use with Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic. And with all that being said, is Mom Pog or not? Is she worth pulling? I say she is on both accounts with a pretty big disclaimer. Let me explain. Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic has very specific synergies, and if you don't have the units available that benefit from them, then you won't use her much at all. She is niche, but niche does not mean bad. Unfortunately, I don't see enough value in her kit to use her as an off burst, but I think allowing her to alternate with someone like Treasure Flora or Maid Mast is a viable choice. Max HP scaling is rarely utilized by NIKKEs that we have available for offensive purposes, and for something like high deficit campaign stages, HP doesn't really mean anything since everything will insta-kill you without shields. Maxwell also needs time to ramp up, which is detrimental in campaign. When it comes to bossing, if you have Laplace Ultimate Hero, Cinderella, and Rouge, and you have them built or you're at least planning on building them very soon, then I think Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic is worth pulling for. I thought that Laplace Ultimate Hero was a must pull for me, just for her strength in Massilis Tower. But I think Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic doesn't have nearly as much value if you have Treasure Flora, because she already synergizes very well with Naga, and I'm sure that most people have Naga already. So Treasure Flora plus Naga does not leave room for Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic in the team, even if Maxwell has potential to outperform Naga. So if you're intending on pulling her just for Massilis Tower, then consider that as well. Personally, I'm going to pull for her because I have heavily invested into Cinderella and Rouge, and I'm currently working on Laplace Ultimate Hero as well. You can always put Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic on your wish list once her banner expires. And hopefully, with the release of these two Massilis units, we can expect more that have interesting HP scaling mechanics in the future. Because I really do like both Laplace Ultimate Hero and Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic. As you saw from my team recommendations, they fit into some not so cookie cutter compositions that I found pretty fun to put together. Anyways guys, please like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!